The red light is on. Okay, I know how to internet. All right, it's working. Good evening, Moto buddies. This is Mike here from Taco Moto Co. I am here with Anna Cody. Anna Cody is somebody that I've been chasing and texting, and you're patient. Anna, thank you for your patience. You've been very generous with me and my pesky request to try to get you on. It's been weeks and months getting to this point, so I'm super happy and stoked to be able to do this. So for those of you who follow the Southwest racing scene, the Baja scene, the name Anna Cody is not unknown to you. I've been learning about her. I've been reading about her, and I've had people message me. Anna, you've got a lot of fans out there, and I've received quite a few texts from people who give me little snippets of your information, your history, and the comments in Facebook posts and Instagram posts. Yes, things like I met Anna at a race, or Anna and I had this little incident happen to us together, and she's a great person. So you have a lot of fans, and there's a lot of people out there who know your career and know about you. So you should be happy and proud to know that you do have a little fan base out there. So Anna, I'm going to read some of your kind of career highlights. This is probably way incomplete. I'm sure there's way more, and you can fill in the gaps and add detail to things that I don't have. So what I was able to gather basically off your Instagram and some of your other things is you were the first woman to individual solo the Baja 1000 on a motorcycle. That's a career highlight. And you had 13 years of District 37 class championships. And that's in female class, or just in what category?
In the women's division, yes.
Women's division, okay. And then you had a number of score championships. Then is that class 20?
We had a class. Yeah, we did win in 2008. We won class 20 championship. 1990, we were second in class 21, and 2009 and 10, we were third in class 20.
Okay, so why don't you? And there's a few more, but how about you just give us some of your highlights? And I'd like to know what some of those achievements are, and then I'm curious to know what bike you were on and what teammate you had for some of those events.
Okay. Well, I won numerous Best in the Desert championships. I've raced a lot of those. Vegas to Reno, I've done numerous times, including solo. A couple AMA National Hare and Hound championships. I won the Nevada Rally, which was a 5-day rally, 2,500 miles.
That's a big deal.
They brought Jutta Kleinsmith over from Germany. And she was a Dakar, I think she might have been one of the first women to finish Dakar. And it was a close race for 5 days, but I ended up winning over her. So that was pretty happy.
So you beat a female Dakar champion at the Nevada Rally.
Yeah, back in 1990. I think it was 93.
And what bike were you on?
I rode a KTM 400 for that race.
Okay. Do you remember what she was riding?
She was riding the same type of bike.
Same machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she was not happy that I was beating her. And so we would pull into our little end of our route, the end of special test or what we were doing. And she'd get off her bike and she'd come over and look at my time card. And then I always knew when I had beat her in a section because she'd light.
You could tell by her face.
Well, no, she'd just light a cigarette and just be like, she was scary. She was really scary, but it's a really nice lady, really nice.
She was intense.
She was intense, yes.
Okay, so now I bet you know that Scott Harden Johnny Campbell and Scotty Harden are looking at bringing the Nevada Rally back. Are you aware of that?
I was not aware of that. No.
Yes. Now that I've told you that, I'm going to make sure that he gets a hold of you, that they reach out to you, because I think you would be a fantastic ambassador for the relaunch of that event.
That would be outstanding if they were to bring that back. That was
what if there was race. What if there was a champions division, past champions, past heroes and vets? I'm going to advocate for that. I'm going to try to push that and get you into that.
All right.
Okay. So Nevada Rally, score championships. Keep going. What were you riding? What were some of the things you achieved and what were you riding?
Well, back in 1990, my former teammate Lilly Sweetland and I were the first women to ever finish the Baja 1000 on motorcycles. And we rode long story straight, we were going to ride a KX 250. And all things blew up like the day before the race. So Larry Rossler gave us his KDX 200 pre-run bike that had like 9 million miles on it. And Lilly had graduated from the Motorcycle Institute of Mechanics, I guess, in Phoenix.
She was a motorcycle mechanic, okay?
Yeah, so she tore the bike apart and tore it down the day before the race. And somehow, I don't know, just by the Baja gods, we ended up finishing. I had 6 gear for the last 90 miles, and it literally, the whole entire bike, just as I crossed the finish line in Ensenada, the transmission just grenaded, just locked up, oil blew out everywhere. And the mechanics at Kawasaki, when they opened the bike up, they go, I don't even know how this bike made it.
And did I understand you right? She rebuilt it the night before the race?
Pretty much, yeah.
Good for her, good for you.
Yeah. We weren't taken very serious, but we proved what we had to do, and we had an extreme, it was amazing. It was just her and I. And it was funny because I started the race. I think back then it started in Ojos Negros. And she was going to get on. She had a certain ability. She was real short. She could ride certain areas, but the tough stuff I would have to ride. So I had to go up over the summit and down to what's a lake up there? I can't remember. Anyway, that was going to be our first rider change. And when I came over, I see this girl jumping about 6 feet off the ground, waving her arms. I come up and she's like, "What are you doing here?" She's like, "You're not supposed to be here." I was like 10th overall. And she goes, "I can't get on. I can't ride." And anyway, so I got her on the bike and off she went.
Okay. So that was your first Baja attempt. Well, you finished it, so it wasn't an attempt, was it? That was a completion. First time you raced in Baja. The second time you raced Baja, tell us about that.
Well, Lilly passed away of cancer, a very rare cancer, in 2002, I believe 2002. And in the back of my mind, I'd always kind of wanted to solo the Baja 1000. And so what I did is, instead of replacing a teammate, I decided to solo it, and I raised a little over 21,000 for the American Cancer Society.
Can I find a picture of Lilly here? Is this Lilly? You sent me a couple of photos, and I think this is you and her, right?
That's us.
Okay. So that's Anna and Lilly, 1990. That's your contingency. That's when you're checking in the bike, and there's your KX.
I think that's the KDX, isn't it? Or is it? I can't see what it is exactly. I think that's the KDX we rode.
Well, there you are. So you're at the handlebars, right? And she's behind you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's her behind me. And her husband raced for Team Green back in the day and rode with Larry Rossler and those guys.
Yep, KDX, when I zoom in, KDX.
That's Larry Rossler's KDX pre-run bike that they put 1.5 million miles on down there. Those bikes were bulletproof. I loved racing those bikes. They were fun.
Okay, so that was your first Baja race. And then the second, after her passing and in her honor, you did what?
I raced, my bike was an XR 650. So that's the one that I rode solo from Ensenada to La Paz.
Okay, I wouldn't race the Baja 1000 on an XR 650 under any conditions. That's a monster of a machine, heavy. I don't think I can kickstart that bike, and yet you did it. You did it. What was the mileage count on that year?
1,047.
Okay, so you were 1,047 on a kickstart bike, on a monster of a machine, on a Johnny Campbell level machine. I don't know if you've ever stood next to Johnny Campbell, but he's a big dude. And I've never stood next to you, but I'm just going to guess that he's probably a little taller, a little bigger, his legs a little thicker.
A little longer. Maybe not. I don't think his legs are thicker, but yes, a little tall.
Okay, a little longer possibly. So impressive on every level. Tell us how what's wrong with you?
That actually, the XR 650 is almost my favorite motorcycle all around. The first thing I did was learn how to start it. There's a trick, and I can actually start an XR650 faster than somebody can start a bike with an electric start.
Impressive as hell. Okay.
I actually went to Johnny Campbell because that year the 450 was debuting, and I asked him. I said, "What bike?" I said, "What bike do you think I should race?" And he said, at that time, he said, "Just because the XR is so dependable, that's what you should race." And so that was my choice, and I listened to him because obviously we all know that he has a track record to prove himself and his machines.
Okay. So you soloed the 1000. That is an absolute hero move. We'll get into more of that later. Right now, we're just kind of like highlighting your career. What else did I miss? What else do you want to crow about? Brag away.
I have several Enduro championships in District 37 and Grand Prix championships. I can't remember how many, but they're there. I'm trying to think of what else. I think we've touched in on all the big races. I probably have over 200 wins. I've never really sat down and counted, but back in the day in District 37, you had to actually race 20 races a year for a championship. So if I have 13 of those, that's a lot.
That's a lot of races. What's your trophy room like? You just covered wall to wall?
Over the years, they've just fallen apart. I've lost them. So the trophies that I have now are the ones that when I soloed the Baja 1000, class 20 championship, that one's real big. And then there was one year in District 37 where I won every division, which was Enduro, Grand Prix, Best of the West, Desert. And I think that was it. But I took every class championship. So I have those. There's a few other ones just kind of fumbling around, but those are my most important, and they'll always stay with me.
Good for you. Okay, that's impressive. So there's a lot of guys out there, guys and ladies, who look at your career and look at your achievements, and that's what attracted to me to have a conversation with you. Is first off that Baja 1000 solo. So few people do that anyway, and then to do it on a 650 and to do it as the first woman, it just to me ranks as like a massive achievement, and I'm blown away by that. So I want to talk about this person right here. Who is this?
That is my mother. She's the backbone, the start of our racing career for both Quinn and myself. She was always there to support us, always. That was her. I think that was probably 1972. She used to race in Santa Maria at a place called Spillway, and she raced motocross down there. But I would say she's probably been our biggest fan throughout all these years of racing. She's been there. She's been down in Baja with us, chasing us around, watching us chase our dreams.
Okay, so she's the reason why you are who you are. Why is she the way she is? How did she get into motorcycling?
She probably got into her. My dad was into motorcycling, so both of them rode motorcycles back in the day. My dad moved us off the grid in 1972, way out into the wilderness, as I call it. And so it was like 2.5 hours to get to town. And if there was a storm, you were not going to drive an actual vehicle. So part of our way to get in and out was riding motorcycles to town and back if we had to get groceries or whatever we needed.
Okay, so that's how she got into biking, as basically out of necessity. It just was the vehicle.
Yeah, it was. Well, at first it was my dad that was into it, and he got her into racing with a couple other friends. And then as we moved back to the mountains, then it became a necessity. That was a lot of times that was our way of getting in and out to town.
What was the goal here of moving so far off grid? Was this something that they just wanted to, like, were they survivalists? Tell me about that.
It was the 70s.
So it was a hippie commune.
Well, no, my dad was an artist. So, artists are in a whole different category. And that's, they used to do a lot of backpacking, and they had found the spot that they just both fell in love with, and they found the owners of the property and decided to move there. The first year was rough. We lived in a tent while my dad built his, my dad actually built the house, or my mom and dad built the home. So, it's a beautiful, beautiful place. We still have it in the family, and we still all go spend time there.
Okay. And your mom, do you have memories of her? Whose idea was this? This was your dad's because he was an artist? Your mom was willing and wanted to do this? I'm just trying to think of my wife. Like, I'm trying to imagine the conversation. We're like, well, we're gonna move up to the mountains, and we're gonna live in a tent, and we're gonna ride motorcycles in a town. This is a life that is very deliberately chosen. I just wonder how willing she was as an accomplice.
I'm pretty sure. I think she was willing. Like I said, it was the 70s. That was the thing that people would do sometimes, and I think they both wanted to do it.
Okay.
So that's. I guess we should have her on the show.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should. So, was your dad making money? Was he making good money to buy good motorcycles, or were you riding kind of ratty equipment? Do you remember that?
It was tough. The starving artist story that goes along with the whole thing. But they survived. We always seemed to have fairly new Husqvarnas. My dad was a Husqvarna man, and that's what our family had, was Husqvarnas. My mom had an 8-speed, the old 250 Husqvarna.
Was your dad a fan of Malcolm Smith? Do you think that was the reason?
Yes. Oh, yeah. We were huge fans. I mean, the biggest excitement that we would have is if my dad went to town and brought back a dirt bike magazine. And, so we would read the dirt bikes. And as a kid, I would sit there and I would thumb through looking at like Larry Rossler, Bruce Ogilvie, Scott Harden, all their Baja. And I was like, I want to do this someday. They were my biggest inspiration ever.
Wow. Okay. So they would be thrilled to know that. Next time I see Scotty, I'm going to tell him that those articles that you saw as a kid in Dirt Rider magazine, Ron Lawson too, the editor of that back, I don't know when he started, but he may have been at the magazine back then. Mm-hmm. And same with your brother then, the two of you, what are you in the bedroom under the covers with the flashlight looking at these magazines, like dirty magazines? You're like looking at these motorcycle stars. Tell me about.
Yeah, we would just, we couldn't wait. My dad would always come back with this huge backpack. He'd ride back from town, and we would dig through it to find that. And this was actually pre-Quinn. Quinn wasn't born yet. So Quinn and I are about 9 years apart. So it was actually just myself that was there. My older brother had gone off to a boarding school for high school. So all I did was ride motorcycles around and read dirt bikes and pretend I was racing the Baja 1000.
Okay. This is a great childhood. You wouldn't trade it for anything, would you?
No, you know what? It made me who I am today, because my dad raised us to be tough and take care of ourselves. So in the middle of the night in the Baja 1000, when I was crashed out somewhere picking up my XR 650, and there was all these locals, and I had long braids, so they would come and they would start playing with my braids going, "Oh, chica," and I knew I could defend myself and get going.
I can tell in your face and in your eyes as you tell this story, this is just absolute joy to you, this childhood that you had. It sounds like you were a free range kid. Did you go to school, or was this like homeschool situation?
I did. Yeah. My mom taught us school at home. I did go into town to go to high school. So that was kind of a big shock, growing up how I grew up and then having to conform to go to high school. And I was like, what? What's this?
Yeah. Sit in a chair, listen to somebody, follow rules, be obedient. Right. That does not sound like the experience you had before high school.
Yeah, no, it was that was a bit tough. That was an adjustment for that, for sure. Okay.
So you finished school, you finished high school. Are you racing as a kid living at home?
I wasn't. I started racing. The very first race I ever went to, Kendall Norman's dad, Morris Norman, was a good family friend of ours. So he talked us. Actually, let me back up a minute. So when I was 12, I actually did go to a desert race. Morris Norman took us. It was my first desert race ever. And then after that, I didn't pursue it till I was probably about 18 again. And then I started racing some local enduros, and then I started racing some desert races, and it took off from there. It escalated from there.
It escalated. I like the word escalated.
I never stopped for like 30 years.
Okay. All right. So those are your first races. Now your mom in that picture, is she competitively racing? Is she racing before you or after you?
Before. I was just a baby in that picture. Yeah.
Okay. And so do you have childhood memories of your mom racing competitively?
I don't. Because they raced, when I don't remember her racing at that, I was too young. And then after that, she stopped, and then we moved to the mountains, and I just have memories of riding with her, and that's it.
Okay. All right. So you have the first memories of yourself racing competitively, riding competitively. Okay. All right. So you finished high school. What town is this again? Where is this?
Los Olivos, California. It's just above Santa Barbara.
Santa Barbara. Okay.
Solving the Danish capital of America.
Yeah, beautiful mountains. Now, back in the day, you probably could ride anywhere. As long as it wasn't fenced private property, I bet nobody cared.
Yeah, we could ride. We rode in Los Olivos. We rode through towns. There used to be this old man that would get mad and yell and call the cops. But by the time they showed up, we were done.
Okay. So this is the era where kids were just riding freestyle, doing whatever. Mm-hmm. Nobody cared except for this guy. Besides him, no one else cared. You did what you wanted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you go from there after you leave the house? What are you doing?
So as far as my racing career?
Well, I guess, why don't you blend it all together? So you grow up there at home, you finish high school. Where do you go? And then are you racing? Do you go to,
pretty much. I mean, immediately after high school, I started racing. And then like I said, it's something that I took to, and then I started doing really well. There wasn't a lot of women that raced at that time. And I was like finishing right up there with the guys, 20th overall and stuff like that. And then it just took off with sponsorship, and I got some factory rides and I pretty much dove into racing for forever. Seems like.
Okay. So this is basically a career move. You basically get a job racing motorcycles.
Well, yes, I had to work myself as well. So I worked in insurance my entire life. So I had my regular day job that I had to do.
So your day job was like working at an insurance agency, something like that?
Right.
Okay.
So, I'm very fortunate. The company I'm with now, I've been with them for 25 years. So they put up with a lot of my coming in Monday morning, broken arms, broken legs, face bashed and whatever.
Yeah. So I'm curious, insurance is the last thing I think somebody doing stupid activities like motorcycling would get into. You should be making, I don't know, missiles and rockets at a factory or dangerous things. Like insurance seems so like for squares, like that's such a normie thing to do, and you're anything but.
Yeah. Well, I think, what I think is it was a good career to fund my racing. So I just stayed in it. I was able to make enough money to go racing, as well as, sponsorships. I had amazing sponsorships throughout the years that helped me so much. I don't think I could have done it without them.
Who were some of those early career helpers for you?
Kawasaki was a big one. IMS was always helped me. GPR stabilizers, I've been with them for years. Acerbis, those are my really, really solid ones that I've had throughout the years.
Okay. Were you ever at a point where you were making enough money from racing that it surpassed what you were doing on a day job?
No.
No.
I'd like to think so. I tried, but it wasn't there. It wasn't there for me to make. I think I won. We won the San Felipe 250 class, and the entry fee was, I can't remember what the entry fee was, like $1,100, and the prize money was $1,150. So we walked away with $50.
Okay. So you're always writing. You're basically writing a check to be sponsored. Like I love so this is something too that I think is interesting. There's a lot of people who are sport riders, weekend riders, recreational riders, and they would look at somebody maybe in a position like you were in, where you're a sponsored rider, thinking that you're just riding fat, that you're living large, that you're getting these big checks, you're being flown around the world or flown around whatever the race series is. That is not the reality of a racer at all. Is it? There's very few people that are at that level, but for the
Right.
rest of the career racers, it's like you were describing. You're making $50 in a win. You're making small money, and it's basically a career move that costs you money.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the sponsorship that I had with parts and that type of stuff, of course that saved me a ton of money. So, I was able to do it with that help throughout the years.
Okay.
If I had to go buy all the parts for my bike or all the tires and, then it would not have been affordable.
Yeah. Okay, that's a really good way to say it. So by having these sponsorships, it basically makes this hobby slash career affordable rather than an absolute financial drain. It was a drain, but like it would have been unaffordable to the point maybe you couldn't have even done it at all.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then in off-road racing, the prize money is pretty slim. It's
Yeah.
not like Supercross or, some of the bigger ones. I don't know what it is now. Maybe there are people that are making money.
Most of the people are making their money, their serious money, in like endorsements and through sponsorships that may or may not be, a little more lucrative, a little more generous.
Yeah.
Um, that's a whole nother conversation about how somebody makes money in off-road racing. There's not much to be made, but there are some people who I think are doing okay. So I'm scanning through some of your pictures, and I want to show you a couple because I think this is a good time to talk about. You're still what are you, in your 20s now at this point when you're getting some sponsorship
Early
ride?
20s. Yeah, I was 20. I think I really started to take off around age 20.
Okay.
20. I think I was 22 when we raced the Baja in 1990.
Okay. So let's look at a few pictures around that era. Whoops. Let's see. You don't care about that. Here we go. So let me get this in the frame. I wish I was better at all this computer nerd stuff.
That's good. We should have been sponsored by Aquanet, but we weren't.
Oh man, this is so great. So what's happening here? How old are you and what's happening?
Okay, so I was about 20. I think I was 22 there. After we finished the Baja 1000, became the first women to finish on motorcycles, we got invited to go on to Tell the Truth.
Now
And
this is you, and well, we need to do this. We need to, if we're going to talk about that, I want to show a couple more pictures, and then you could launch into that story, because you also sent me the picture of you, and it was Ellie, right? This is you and Ellie? Lilly, right. I'm sorry. This is you and Lilly. Okay, so this is you and Lilly after you finish. Now, is this you and Lilly in Ensenada? I can tell that's at the fountain there.
It is, yes.
Okay. You sweet looking girls, you don't look like animals ready to conquer Baja on motorcycles. Why do I have this like disconnect between these sweet girls and then these animals out there eating cactus and competing with, trophy trucks of the day? This does not compute. Here's another one did I already show this one? I think I already showed that one too, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's in contingency with us. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's when we were looking at your KDX.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys do not look like wild animals chasing Baja, trophies. Go back to this one. This was after the race.
That is a couple months later when we got to go down to Hollywood to go on the TV show To Tell the Truth.
Okay. What was that experience?
So what it was is they take people with extraordinary stories like ourselves, and we need to stump the panel. But I had to tell the truth, and then I had two people that were imposters that were supposed to be me, and they could lie all they wanted to. And so Alex Trebek was our host from Jeopardy. I don't know if you remember him. And we almost stumped the panel. We did really good. And then the one lady goes, "Oh, I feel so sorry for number 2. She's so pretty and no one voted for her." And so but like I said, we almost stumped the panel.
Okay, and so are the other contestants dressed like you guys? So you're all sort of in motocross looking gear?
I brought all my gear and we put them in gear. You would have thought, but we were the last show of the day to be filmed. So we had plenty of time to prep them. So one lady was an attorney and one lady she worked for Virgin Records as something, knew nothing about motorcycles. And we prepped them so well. When you watch the show, you would have thought that they were the ones.
Oh, that's great. And is this something that's on YouTube? Can I put a link to that in the notes?
You probably could find it. It's like I said, it was called To Tell the Truth. It was on for many, many years. I mean, even before we went on there. So you
how long has it been since you've seen your show?
Well, I actually have a tape of it, so I do have it.
VHS or Betamax?
It was on VHS, but I took it off and put it on a DVD. I burned it onto a DVD. So
okay, if it's not on YouTube, but I can't find it, then I need to have that uploaded. That has to exist.
Yes, I will send that to you.
Okay, the kids need to see this. There are girls out there who want to follow in your footsteps, and they need to see that. Yeah,
it was a fun experience. We had a good time with it.
Okay, so you and Lilly, you get your hair in that 90s hair. You get your helmet over the top of that hair. You ride that KDX 250. How did you guys do in class? How did you guys do overall? Do you remember that?
We overall, I don't remember. I think we finished like 7th in class, because back then they didn't have all these classes. They had the open bike and the small bikes, the 250s. And we were in that class. And I don't even know if they had any other classes. So, it was a mass amount of people that were in each class. I don't remember what we finished overall. But like I said, it was rough. I spent the last 90 miles, I only had 6 gear. That was it. And that was a tough go.
Okay, so you guys, any stories from that? Any injuries? Anything remarkable happened on that race with Lilly?
Well, she got, so as she was heading up to Mike's Sky Ranch, one of the ranchers got really upset that something happened, and so he blocked off and he fenced off the whole entire area so the bikes couldn't get through. So Lilly, being, because her husband Garth Sweetland raced with, I know he's won numerous couple Baja 1000s overall. He raced with Larry Rossler. He had taught her a lot. And so she was smart enough to figure out if she went along the fence line, she could drag her bike. At one point she was able to drag the bike under the fence and get back on the main road that went up to Mike's Sky Ranch. So that was kind of exciting. That cost her some time. And then for me, really the most exciting part was the last 90 miles running next to the bike some of the time with just being in 6th gear, just, clutching it out through the silt. And then coming in Ensenada was, for me, Larry Rossler used to have this Malcolm Smith ad that said, "Happiness is seeing the lights of Ensenada," or it was some Baja 1000 ad that they had done. So that was my big thing. I wanted to, they stopped the race in those days back in Ojos Negros, but then you had the option to ride into Ensenada if you wanted to. And so I did, of course. And as I came into the finish line, the transmission completely disintegrated and it locked up. I mean, you can't even make up a story like that. It literally locked up at the checkered flag.
Okay, so basically you had all of the angels of Baja on your shoulders, willing that bike to just get across the line.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
we had a lot of luck on our side because we were two blonde girls. Thank God we were cute, because in those days, the trophy trucks, they didn't really care about motorcycles. And so they would, they were known for running people over. So we went and we introduced ourselves to every truck racer there was. And we begged them to please not run us over. And so they were very good. And actually, I do have one really good story. At the end, when it was finishing in Ojos Negros, I was I had been struggling with the bike being in 6th gear. So the light kept like really dimming out. So you could hardly see. And finally I got on the road and the lights, you could just kind of flickering and stuff. And I heard a trophy truck come up behind me and I moved over like normal. And he just wouldn't go around me at all. And so I finally looked back and it was Ivan Stewart. And it was back when he raced the Toyotas and he sat in the middle seat, and he just looked at me and he was like, go in front of me, and gave me a big old thumbs up at the finish line. So that was like my highlight of my life. Ivan Stewart lit the way to the finish line for me.
That's very cool. He took you under his wing.
Yeah. He had a bad day. He wasn't winning. So you know what I mean? He was so far behind that he just, he's just sat back and lit the way for me.
And took care of you. Good for him. Yeah. That's amazing. That's a really good story.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your first Baja race. So you didn't try the 250 or the 500. You just went for the 1,000. You just go for it.
No, we actually raced the whole series. So we ended up second in the 250 pro class that year. We done the 500. I raced the 500 with a couple other people. Lilly didn't come on board till the Baja 1000 with me.
Okay.
So I had raced with a couple different people at the other race, a couple other ladies at the other 2 races. And we did have a third person, Connie Joyce from Canada, that was going to race the 1,000 with us. But she broke pre-running. She broke her foot really bad. So that's why we ended up with just 2 of us.
Okay. And then Lilly, sadly, your friend Lilly, who you raced with, and it was in the picture of the This Is Your Life or whatever that show was.
To tell the truth.
Yeah, tell the truth. Okay. She passes. And then your next Baja attempt is the 1,000, and you're going to do it solo. And how does that come about?
So I decided that Lilly passed away of cancer. So I decided that I would race the Baja 1000. In honor of her, I wouldn't replace her. I would do it solo. And I did a fundraising effort, and we raised a little over 21,000 for the Cancer Society. And there's definitely an emotional finish line with that one for sure.
Yeah. So when you do that race, you're not what are some of the essentially you set some records, you like break records. You're the first female to make the solo attempt. You're the first female to finish it. And there's only been one other, Liz. What is her last name? So there's only been 2. There's only been
2 others. Yeah, there was. So Liz, it's what I can't pronounce it.
We'd butcher it if we could.
Yeah, we would. And then
everybody knows Liz.
Talia Dodson, I think it was her name. So there's been 2 other girls that have done it, ladies that have done it since.
So that's a total of 3. You were first, then Liz, and then a third.
I think Talia was a second, and then Liz.
I see.
Yeah.
So you, Talia, and then Liz.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very, very small club. Obviously. Any experiences or stories from that 1,000? Tell us what bike you were on. I think we covered that already, didn't we? It's this XR650.
The XR650.
You had a special way to start it. You could start that bike faster than somebody could with an electric start bike. You said.
Yes, I learned. I had some really, really good old Baja 1000 guys that had probably raced every single one of them. That really took me under their wing. Taught me everything that I needed to know. Taught me how to, first of all, start an XR650. Because if you've ever not been able to start one, you know how miserable it is. So that was my big thing, getting that thing started. And so I got that down. And then stories. Where do you want to start?
I have no idea. Did you see the chupacabra? Did you ever feel like you were sort of coming in and out of consciousness, zoning out? Because I have talked to a ton of guys who have run the Baja 1000, and there is a point where you go into like almost a transcendental mushroom state where the cactus are talking to you and every bush is alive. Tell us about some of those experiences.
Well, so when we were pre-running, so I pre-ran all the way to La Paz. So I actually rode it back to back, but I spent 5 days getting there. There was this one section near Loreto that just terrified me. It was very narrow. It was deep silt ruts, and that's all I thought about the entire pre-run. Driving back to Ensenada, I was just terrified that if I got in there with a trophy truck, it would be a wreck. And so I had actually been riding in the first from Ensenada to San Felipe. Chris Blaze had chased me. I don't know if you know Chris, the Dakar. He's done all kinds of racing. So he chased me, and he told me, he said, "Do not stop until you just absolutely can't go anymore and you need to get off the bike." So I did exactly what he told me to do. And that was I think Loreto was about 700 miles into the race. And I had not stopped once. I just kept on going. I'd stop at, to get gas or get something. So sure enough, I'm in this little section of just miserable ruts and silt. And there was a guy in front of me that I was trying to get around, and I crashed. And so I was trying to get the bike out, and it just kept like going. I could see the back wheel kind of going into the rut. And then I heard everybody's fear, just trophy trucks coming, just roaring. And I had spent so much to get there. I said, I'll die before I let them run this bike over. And I leaped and I jumped in front of the bike, and I started waving my hands like this, pointing down at it. The guy gets the front wheel out of the rut. And now I can hear him in the whole side of the truck's ripping off in the bushes. And the truck's coming sideways at me, and the co-driver and I are like looking at each other eye to eye. And so they kind of go by, and the back end comes, and I basically threw myself on the back of the truck and just pushed, and it pretty much missed my bike by an inch.
Okay. So,
yeah.
All right. So you almost die. You almost get run over. Your bike almost gets crushed. This guy goes off into the bushes. Does he get stuck, or is he able to keep going and negotiate and get out?
He kept on going. He left half the side of his truck there. The door and the side panel and all of that.
All that fiberglass is torn off. Did he give you hell next when he saw you at the finish?
No, I actually, about several years later, I actually met him, and he didn't. And I told him, I said, that could have been the end right there. And thank you. And he looked at me and he says, "Oh my God." He goes, his name is Al Hogan from Utah or somewhere up there. And he goes, "I will never forget that." He goes, "I was wondering who this crazy person was throwing themselves on the side of my truck."
Okay. Yeah. All right.
But I actually talk about adrenaline. Right at that, after he went by, I grabbed the bike and I moved it. I don't know who knows if I picked it up. I don't even know what state of mind. I moved that thing so far off the course. And then I'm standing there and I could just hear this banging, like this noise. Finally, I realized my legs were shaking so hard that my knee braces were hitting each other.
Holy crap.
And then I just peed.
Okay, so that's 700, because Chris told you don't get off the bike, don't rest, don't take a break until you absolutely have to. So you're at 700, race mile 750 or something there?
Right around 750, I think it was, yeah. So I went into the next Honda pit, which was just a couple miles down the road. I was like, I have to get off of this thing. And I sat down for 45 minutes. My socks are wet, so I got, dry socks on and got myself back together, and then on I went.
So are you self-supported? Do you have Honda factory representation here? What is your team like at this point?
Honda, I was pitting with Honda, and there's another division of Honda that actually helped me out quite a bit with parts and stuff like that throughout getting ready for this race. And with Honda, you had to average 30 miles an hour, and that doesn't sound like it doesn't sound very fast, but if it is once you get down in, further down. And if you didn't average that speed, they closed the pits and they were gone. So you were just on your own. Fortunately, I made every single pit, so I averaged it, so it was okay.
So you mean to say to hit your times before they left you, you had to be running 30 miles an hour? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Because they weren't going to sit there and be like, "Where's Anna? Where's Anna?" Well, we'll just wait for her to get in. No, as soon as whatever that time number was, you made it or you didn't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so
it's not like Mag 7 and Baja pits that stay there for days for you.
Right.
Honda was like 30 miles an hour, or so they had a time that the pits closed and they packed up and left because they're all volunteers, So yeah.
So you had that number in the back of your head. How motivating is that?
That was very motivating. Another motivating factor was Bruce Ogilvie was always one of my heroes, always. And him and I don't know. We never really I don't even know if the word is got along or, we just, he was just like, I was like irritating him that I was there. Like, oh, she's not going to finish. But to me, he was always one of my heroes, always. And the best sad thing that I ever had happen was a couple months after they had a Baja after race party, and he came in and everybody's like, "Oh, Bruce." And he looked across the room and he walked straight across the room and he shook my hand. He said, "That's the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. And congratulations. That was incredible." And that was like a huge thing for me.
Highlight of your career so far. Yeah. Okay. Well, he just didn't know to respect you like you were, like you deserved, like you had earned it. And he didn't know that you were that type of person. He didn't know you grew up in the backwoods over the mountains of Solvang. He didn't know that you could handle yourself. You probably could start a fire. You could whittle a shelter. I mean, he just he had no clue. He just saw your Aquanet 90s hair.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And he like mansplained to you probably how this is a terrible idea. And I don't know what she's doing out here, but all right, whatever. If she paid the fee, then let her race.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you earned his respect. So that race, any other stories you want to hit, any other highlights?
Well, when you were talking about the point where you lose it. So, okay. I pretty much knew that was going to come at some time. So it was probably just before the sun comes up, just at dawn. And there had been, before the race, I think there was 2 huge hurricanes that had come through. So the course was tore up. And in my mind, I'm pretty sure there was 82 creek crossings that I had to cross from Loretto up through, I can't think of the name of that mission. You had to go way back up through the mountains there. And so as I was riding along, I came up out of one of the creeks and I came around the corner and Kurt Caselli was standing there. And I'm like, "Hey, Kurt, how's it going?" And then the next corner, he was there and he was getting bigger and bigger. And pretty soon it was like he was on a huge bulletin board, just this giant face. And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute, Kurt, he's in New Zealand racing ISDE. He wouldn't be here." So I'm having this conversation with myself, like, and then all of a sudden I heard this roar of a trophy truck, and I looked back, and this truck was like 10 feet in the air, and I dove off into the bushes and stopped, turned the bike off, and I looked around. There was no trophy truck. There was no Kurt Caselli. And then I started to get like the little lip quiver, I was starting to cry. And I was like crying. And so I took my hand and this, I think I had like a dual personality there. I took my hand and I grabbed my helmet and I'm like, "You wanted to do this, get your act together." And I was like, "I can't do it." And this went on. And then finally I was like, "You got your act together?" And I'm like, yeah, I do. And I'm like, "Okay, now you can go." And then I got back on, and that was my only experience. Then after that, I was fine.
So you had a pity party. You had a little conversation with yourself.
I did.
Do you remember what race mile that was? Did you say?
Probably in the 800s. I had been going for 24 hours at that point. It was, just at the break of dawn.
24 hours straight. What was your total race time that year? Do you recall?
33 hours, 14 minutes, and 47 seconds, I think.
Okay, 34. Let's round it up. 34 hours on a motorcycle, chasing glory. That's just absolute madness.
Yeah, it was madness. There was so much story. We don't have enough time to go on and on and on about some of the stories.
Okay, write that book so we can read it.
Okay.
All right, so that becomes the benchmark that the other two female riders, and hopefully there's a female rider out there that's watching this and is inspired to do this accomplishment. Have you been contacted by anyone who wants to hear any of your advice or experiences in their?
Yeah. Several people have, and I've helped some people that have actually, they have soloed it. And, I've whether my advice worked or not, I helped them and gave them, the best advice I could.
Okay. Mentoring other riders. All right. That's awesome. So that race happens. That's probably the thing that you're almost the most known for, but I'm very curious about your Nevada Rally experience. The Nevada Rally was a very unique race and a unique format. It's sad that it didn't endure. It's exciting to think that Johnny and Scotty are possibly going to bring it back. So It's not secret. I'm not letting anything. There's no like cat out of the bag with this. It's not guaranteed. There's a long process of permitting and land use rights that need to be granted. So could it be derailed and killed before it even begins? Yes, of course, there is that chance. But last time I talked to Scotty about it, he seemed pretty confident and hopeful about it. You won your class. Tell us how you got into that style of racing and what your experience was at that event.
Well, actually, I had done, I raced Best in the Desert, Casey Folks races for a long time. So when that came out, that was huge. That was like the most exciting thing that had probably come to the United States. So I definitely wanted to do it. There's no doubt about that. We had to do some fundraisers and sell t-shirts to make the money to get there, to go there. And it was amazing. And, Casey Folks had done such an incredible job, and Franco Service was there. It was so neat because we started at the Excalibur, and all of us got to go down, escorted by the highway patrol, down the Interstate 15, all the way through Vegas and out to the end of town. Now, I don't think that Johnny and Scott will be able to get that to happen again, but that was incredible.
So it was a legit rally, right? And you're navigating with road books. These are mechanical road books. Back in the day, there are no GPSs. You're not using electronic books. These are the paper rolls.
The roll.
And you're probably turning them.
Lay it out and highlight it, and this big long paper roll that went for miles. And there was no, you're right. There's no electronics, nothing like that.
Yeah, you're having to roll it mechanically, not with a button on the bars.
Right.
Was this your first rally race, and did you do any others after that?
No. Well, I did the Baja Rally one year when Scotty first came out with it, but that was the only rally that I had ever done up to that. Never did any more except for the one that Scotty put on. Okay.
What do you feel like there's any advantage to any of the race formats for female riders who want to get into these sports? Why I'm asking this is, if you know Mason Klein, his girlfriend Lexi Baker, who is a fantastic rider. I don't know if you know Lexi or not, or have you ever heard of her? She's I think she's 18 or 19. She is a up and coming rally rider. Because Mason is a rally racer, she's very attracted to that style, that format, and Mason's been teaching her and training her, and she does show some promise. I've heard from a couple of people who have seen her perform that she has what it takes to potentially make a name for herself as a female rally rider, which is unique and novel. I can't think of any others right now, Americans anyway, who are engaged in rally racing. What does it take for a female? And so I guess maybe I have two questions. Do you see that there's a gap in the sport for a female rider to have some success and make a name for herself in that type of format? And then do you have any thoughts or words? Because I'm going to send this to Lexi and let her see this, because I know she would see you as a bit of a mentor because of your experience. Do you have any thoughts for her?
Well, she has an excellent teacher. I can definitely tell you that. That's you having Mason. That I've been watching him. So that's incredible. The sport nowadays, there's so much more room for women racers than there was back in my day, which is really neat because they really are recognizing that. I think that, I don't really know of any women from the United States that are doing rallies. So I think that she would probably have a great, she could probably find some great opportunities to get over to Dakar, or if that's where she wants to go, or wherever she wants to go.
Okay. Well, I may reach out to her and just let her know that if you're agreeable to it, she might be able to contact you and get a little bit of help and support and mentoring from someone like yourself.
Sure, of course. Yes.
So that leads me to what you're doing today. So we talked about where you sort of come from in your career. You told me that you're still in the insurance business, but you'd love to retire from that and go into something else. And it sounds like something that might even help riders. What's going on with that?
Yes. So I part-time, I am a certified personal trainer, and I just opened a small training studio. And I've got a lot, I would like to help, athletes that want to improve, but also people that have been injured. It takes a lot to come back from an injury. And, as racers, we're a special breed. We kind of know how to push ourselves, but the average person might not. So my whole goal and passion in life is to be, get people back up off the couch and living a quality life after a major accident. So I'm kind of, I'm doing, that's what I want to do, that. And plus, anybody that wants to improve on their athletic performance, I've done it all, and I've had to do different things throughout my career to stay in shape to race a motorcycle. That's for sure.
Are you keeping up with any of the, I'm thinking of a couple of the female-focused rider training and improvement groups that are out there. For example, you've got Dirtastic. They do female-focused rider training. There's the Babes in the Dirt event that is a female-only off-road. They do some dual sport and then some Harley stuff too. But there's a number of, and in the links, I can't think of all of them right now, but I'm acquainted with 5 or 6 different women and then women's groups that are specifically designed and cater to the female rider. Are you plugged into any of that? And do you see yourself creating, you're talking about creating a little fitness program for all riders because of your unique experience as a woman? Do you see yourself getting into anything dedicated and devoted just to females and their riding?
I follow some of those groups. I haven't had a lot of time to be involved with them at all. I know when I was in Colorado, Nicole Bradford, I don't know if you know her, ISDE gold medal winner numerous times. She would have classes for all women and teach them endurocross or different type of riding skills. But I have, like I said, the other ones I just haven't really had any time to get too involved with. But I'm always open and willing to do that kind of stuff, and any reason to get on a bike and help people, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm sort of wondering if there's an opportunity for you to, I don't know if you want to start your own business or start your own thing doing it, but I could easily see it. So if I thinking selfishly, like I would love if I was if I had a business right now that was, if I was a woman catering to women and riding and their riders' needs, like I would want you in our program at a really high level, because I think you have an experience and a depth of wisdom that I would want to leverage in our program. And if you have that fitness and that training component too. You seem like a very valuable asset to somebody in that business. So I hope from this, your phone starts ringing off the hook from some of these ladies who are running these programs who start bidding for you and want you on board. Cause I would certainly put you at the top of my list as somebody I would want in our program.
No, I'm always willing to help or anything. I love it. I love seeing the young girls nowadays. They're just amazing, phenomenal riders out there, and there's so many of them now. And compared to the start of when I did it, it's amazing.
Yeah, that's true. I do acknowledge the fact that there are many, many more women riders and racers out there than have been in the past. What is bringing that about? Why is that happening? Is it because of you setting opening the door? I'm going to give you some credit, but what else do you see as a reasoning?
I mean, there's that there, and in my day, there like Mercedes Gonzalez was a motocrosser. She opened the door for a lot of women in the motocross world. And, I think just people are starting to recognize that there's more women that are very talented. I think there's a lot more sponsorship out there now for them, which helps. It helps a lot for sure.
Okay, so do you think then that is it gear too? Because now you've got brands who are making women specific gear. You've got motorcycles like, for example, Husqvarna at the Las Vegas AIM show, which was a trade event that just happened. I had a conversation with one of the KTM Husqvarna brand reps, and they talked about how they're focusing on female riders because with the modern Husqvarnas, they have a link rear suspension, which allows some adjustability to the rear end, to the seat height. And so isn't that interesting? So they have as a brand, as a motorcycle manufacturer, they specifically are thinking about female riders and are using their equipment to market towards and encourage more growth in the female ridership arena. And you've got brands like Fox who have a completely dedicated women's line. You've got a brand called At Wild, and Anya, she is creating ride gear by women for women, and it is just purely and only female focused. So it's not like repurposed men's gear. So it's not like men's gear that's pink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is gear that is designed by teams of women for women. This you've got all of these suppliers, manufacturers, vendors who are looking at even Takamoto. We have, like, in our office, the majority of the people that work for our company are females. They're women, and we see that there is a growing population of women who want to ride. They want to go do these things. They want to get these adrenaline. They're chasing the same feels that you are, that I am, that we all are. And so I would love to see you plugged in a little deeper into that. Do you have a sense of like the maturity of the sport in terms of catering to women?
As far as what was that now? As far as,
well, that was kind of a long-winded question. So I guess I'm just trying to get a sense of like, and maybe you're not exactly the right person because you're just sort of saying you aren't exactly plugged into the industry and how it's being marketed towards women. But hearing what I said about Husqvarna, do you feel like if you would have got on a motorcycle that was sort of designed for you and wore gear that was created for you, would that have changed your experience?
Definitely. Actually, I'm completely into the Husqvarna thing because I have the shortest legs in the world and I cannot touch on a motorcycle for anything. And that is so appealing to me right now. I go, God, I would love to have that.
Okay. Well, I guess we need to get you plugged into the industry. So Anna, this conversation is serving as sort of like a reawakening of you as a sports person. I almost said sportsman, forgive me, sportswoman. I don't know how we would call you, sports person. Okay. Champion hero. I would love to see you become more known and widely used in the sport. So hopefully this is like sort of a launch pad for that.
For sure. That would be amazing, because you get to an age, I've done it. I've had an amazing career, but at some point you have to realize that, okay, I can't go as fast. I can't hit the ground this hard anymore, So it's hard to step down and step away from it. And so, I still want to be involved in the industry. I still race once in a while and ride and have fun. But, being involved in it is something that I would definitely like to stay, I would like to have happen for a very, very long time.
Yeah. So we're at about an hour 5 minutes. It's probably time to start winding down. You and I are both way past our bedtime here at 7:35 p.m. on a Sunday night. Do you have anything that you could direct people towards with your business that you're trying to get started, with your insurance? I'd like you to give any, and I'll put these links too, but tell us how people can get a hold of you, what they can, if they can sign up for classes or anything that you're doing at your, is it a club, a gym? What do we call it? I don't know.
I call it a training studio. It's, it's small. I built it pretty much. But just, you can get a hold of me. I have a couple different, I've got my Facebook. They can message me that way. Anna Cody 99@gmail.com is my email. I've got Anna Cody Racing on my Instagram and North Star Vitality on Instagram. And that's the training studio Instagram page.
North Star Vitality. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Let me throw up a couple of these a couple of these questions and comments that have popped up. Okay. Here is somebody, Keith Clyde. He talks about lowering my daughter's KTM with valving and springs. So here's a dad who wants his daughter to race. That's awesome.
Yes. Dads are, I see a lot of dads out there that are really supporting their daughters and families, which is really, really cool.
Yeah. So same guy, Keith Clyde talks about experience counts a lot. I think that's probably a comment when I was mentioning that you could be and should be a big asset to the sport and to women in the sport right now. I'd love to see that happening. Here is someone who mentioned, this is somebody from Facebook. They said, way to push through the adversity. That's awesome. That's probably when you were talking about the hitting the wall.
Yes. Having the Kurt Caselli hallucination.
Yes. Okay. How about this one? Is that 650 still around?
It is. I had to sell it back in 2013. I know the person that owns it, and I would someday really, really wish to buy it back from him.
Okay. Do you know if it runs?
I don't know. I hope it does.
Okay. It might be just sitting in a garage, but it's
I think it is just sitting there. He's just had it for years.
Okay, good. It's safe. So Troop Throwback, he says, what an awesome review. Talk about you need to get the Cody family on together sometime. I would put money here, the stories they could tell. Yes. Well, that Troop, that's going to happen. Anna, it's you and your brother are the racers. Do you have other siblings that have gotten into the game?
Not really. I had another brother that rides a little bit. My sister rides a little bit. My other sister's terrified. She won't go near a motorcycle. So Quinn and I are really the only ones that have been competitive at it.
Okay. I've heard the Quinn guy has got some achievements. I don't know. Rumors.
He's got a couple, maybe. Actually, the year that I sold the Baja 1000, he won it overall. So that was a special year for our family, for sure.
That's fantastic. And was your mom there cheering you guys on in person?
She was. She flew into La Paz, and she went out to just a couple hundred miles up above La Paz and waited the entire night for me. And, by the time I got there, she was crying and hysterical, and she fed me. I told her I wanted some chicken soup early. That's what I told her I would want. Well, I didn't want any part of chicken soup. Some kid had a thing of salami, and I just grabbed it and started chewing on it.
After 36 hours, you're going to do weird things.
Yeah. My hands, I wish I had a photo, and I don't know where it's at anymore. I had blood blisters on the palm of my hands like you couldn't believe. Even though they were taped up, It was pretty bad.
So let me show this picture because I think this was a post race. You tell me what's happening here in this moment. Hang on. Here we go. This one.
Yes, I'm doing an interview with a radio station, and that's in La Paz after the finish line of the Baja 1000. I was doing an interview with a radio station in Ensenada, and there's my hands. Scott Myers taped my hands in San Felipe, and thank God he did. But yeah, I love that picture.
So great. You look just absolutely dazed and confused. You can see that the goggles have left like an imprint around your eyes, like raccoon eyes.
Yeah.
You look
I still have
thrashed.
that gear. One day I'm actually gonna frame that gear one day. I still have it, and I'm gonna frame it and put it in some room wherever I end up retiring or something.
You look absolutely thrashed. This must have been the Nevada Rally, I'm guessing.
No, that's the XR 650 that I raced the Baja 1000 on.
That's your 18X bike, yes? Okay.
Yeah, so that was before the race, just doing some publicity shots and stuff like that.
Okay, so Facebook user says badass Brap. Of course, badass. Yes. And then here we've got a good one. Is Anna in the Hall of Fame?
No.
Oh, not yet anyway. Okay, so here's somebody who says the XR 650s are super smooth and fun to ride. Yes, they are super smooth.
They are. They get a little heavy towards the end of the race,
At hour 36, they weigh 5,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's somebody that talked about the Nevada Rally reboot. Where do I sign up? Hopefully it happens.
That'd be amazing.
We shall see. So somebody says, so impressive. Yes, everything about your story is absolutely that. Let's see. Somebody wants to know what Honda you ride. We already talked about that. Okay, let me see if there's any others that we may have missed in our final moments here. Somebody says Betty Jean. Is that?
Yes, that was the name of my motorcycle that I raced the Baja 1000 on. I call her our desert mom, Smoke Bomb Gates. Long time old checker, famous old racer. His wife, Betty Jean, was our race mama. And so I named my bike after her.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, let me ask you that. Well, here, okay, let's finish these out. So the name of the 650, somebody, this person, RJH, yes, you just answered that. And then someone from Facebook says, girl empowerment, yes, way to go. Love it. Somebody here says, didn't you win class 21 with Jen M?
We won class 20. Jen and I raced class 21 in 2007, and then in 2008 she raced, and that was class 20 that we won. So she raced with us. I've raced with her several times.
Okay, so you have people here. Look, see, you have people that are commenting who know you, who know these little anecdotes about you. There was somebody I wanted to ask you too to see if this was an inspiration to you, Mary McGee. What does that name mean to you? Do you know who that is?
I've only heard of Mary McGee. I've never met her, and I believe she had soloed like the Baja 500. She was kind of the pioneer of women back in, I don't know when it was, the 70s, I think.
Yeah, so I looked her up. So Baja Nikki Nolan, who's a friend of mine, who's a great lady herself and is an absolute, female badass legend in her own right. She mentioned Mary McGee, and I looked up some of Mary McGee's achievements. And so in 1975, she soloed the 500, not as the first woman, but as the first anyone to solo.
Oh, really? Wow.
The first solo overall. So she, first female, first man, anybody. So that was in 1975. She did the first 500 and had some great stories. I was reading about that. And then in 1968, she did the 1000 in a vehicle, and I think it was a little Nissan truck. Nissan was introducing a pickup truck to the North American market, and she did. And if anybody has other information than what I'm saying. I may not have got my data facts right, but in 1968, she was the first female to race in the 1000 in a truck. And then in 75, she moved to bikes because Steve McQueen told her to stop being such, and his words was like, quote, Patsy, quit being such a wimp, I guess is what he said to her, and get out of a car and ride motorcycles. And so at his insistence, she switched from cars to bikes, and then improved her skills to the point where she felt comfortable doing the 500 solo. She sort of created this. She was like legendary female rider before you, and I think between you and her, you guys hold all the records and have the greatest achievements, female riders.
Well, what a time to come through with Steve McQueen and those. I was born in 68. So, but what amazing time she must have seen with those people, with those guys like him and legends.
Yeah, there is a, if you want to hear an interview with her, there is not a YouTube show, but a podcast. It's called Slow Baja. There's a guy who is a great guy, and he interviews a lot of people who have made a mark on Baja, and I will put a link to his interview of her. He interviewed her a couple years ago. I think she was 94, and she sounded fierce. At 94, she didn't sound like she's lost anything.
Oh, I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll put a link to her. And here is, again, RJH. Again, I rode with Anna, and you see that there in 09 and 10. I don't know what RJH, those initials. You recognize those initials?
That's probably Roger Hurd. Roger Hurd raced with us on our team in 2009 and 10.
Okay.
Roger Hurd was we rode for Team Green back in the 90s, and Roger was like the 125. There was a 125 class in score. He was always on the 125s back in those days. And then he rode with us in 2009 and 2010. We actually rode. Yep, Roger. Yeah, that's him. Roger. He raced with us. And we raised money. He has Parkinson's, and so we raised money for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. But he raced with us for those 2 years.
Okay, cool. So here's another one. Only all-women team to win a championship in score. Was that one of your records?
2008. So that was with Jen Morton and Trisha Lane, Sarah Critch, Stacy Dirksen, and Kathy Duncan. Kathy was she owned Seymour Duncan, the guitar pickups for electric guitars. And she was our big sponsor. So yeah, we were the first all-female team to win a pro championship.
Okay, and that was, what year was that again?
2008.
2008. Did you have the big Aquanet hair then in 2008?
No, it wasn't that long ago. No. Actually,
okay.
We won. We started the race. This was great because the first race was the San Felipe 250, and we were racing against the Penhall kids, the boys, Connor and Ryan, who were fast as could ever be, and they broke a spark plug, and so we squeaked right in there, and they couldn't get their bike fixed in time, and that was actually on my birthday. We actually won that class. We came in first, 250 pro, and then after that we just finished the whole year out and ended up winning the championship. Right
on. Like a badass, like the legends you guys are.
Oh, but the ladies, they were amazing. All those women that raced with me on that team, they did outstanding. They were amazing. I didn't win it. It was a big team. It was all of their efforts and their skills that made it happen.
Combined, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, do you have any final comments or anything you'd like to part off with as we wrap up?
I just want to thank you. Sometimes you just get forgotten about. I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. I'd love to do this, but I appreciate you having me on, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate you, and I don't want your stories to be forgotten. I'd love to see you. It's just the discovery of this conversation. I think you need to be out there in front of female riders, up and coming female riders, and become a mentor and an inspiration to them. And I will push to see that happen, and I hope it does for you.
Always willing to. I'd be more than happy to.
Okay. Well, this is great. You're very generous for with your time, and I'm happy to have done this. Thank you, Anna, so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care, and good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. Now, how do I turn this off? And we're done.